Tom in right now. Let's say hello.
Hey, how are you
Welcome,
guys?
Tom.
Tom, hello. What's going on, buddy?
Oh,
Let's
you
make
know,
sure if I'm checking on our YouTube channel, I want to make sure that it's actually started because I don't see that. Oh, were you there? Yeah. Okay, we're good to go. All right. So, Tom, thank you for joining us tonight and chatting with us. For anyone tuning in having no idea what we're doing, this is our YouTube channel, and we show horror movies here. And Tom Devlin is well, he was an icon of horror for the Sin City Horror Fest, and he is an icon of horror. He's an amazing makeup
sweet.
effects artist who's done some incredible stuff, and now has decided in the past couple of years he's just going to be a filmmaker too.
Yeah, I'm gonna direct.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we were bringing him on because right after our stream at 7 p.m., his this is his movie Teddy Told Me To. That was your first. That's your first feature film, correct? Like that you directed.
My first directorial debut was Teddy Told Me To. Yep,
Awesome.
and we made it about 2 years ago, but it's starting to gain a little steam. It's out there in the world, and people are seeming to like it.
Very cool.
Heck yeah.
Um,
And now creepy popcorn gets to share it with the world on YouTube.
You're our first official guest on Creepy Popcorn, by the way.
yep.
Woo!
Yeah, you're our first guest, our first director to come on. We're going to do a lot more of these. Justin and I used to work for a another channel that we won't name because no, I'm just kidding. But we're back. This is our channel. We're gonna chat and have some fun. Bring on filmmakers, help promote their movies, show their movies, and we really are excited to do that. So we got somebody in the chat, Don Shepard, that says April Fools. Do you know Don Shepard by any chance,
Oh,
Tom?
I know Don. That's Shep. That's he is also a makeup artist, airbrush artist, actor, clown. He's done everything. Shep's the man.
Well, thanks for watching, Don. Thanks for tuning in.
Fort
Um,
Myers, Florida. He's from Fort Myers, Florida.
nice. Before I get started, kind of chatting about Teddy Told Me To, I want you to chat a little bit about like like your monster museum. Tell us a little bit about you as a makeup effects artist leading up to being a filmmaker.
So my career in makeup effects goes back uh, late '99, early 2000. I, as most do, I left high school and needed to go out into the world, and I head west to California. I grew up in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and I moved to LA and tried to attend a school called Joe Blasco's Makeup Center West. And I did attend for like professional makeup artistry. I learned beauty makeup and character makeup, a little bit of hair work and stuff like that. But I just wanted to make monsters. Like monsters was my passion. So when it came time, I graduated that class and it was time to do the prosthetics and advanced prosthetic class. They didn't have other people lined up for it. There wasn't a big enough following or demand at the time. So they told me to kind of like hang out for 6 months and come back. And I told them there's no way. I don't have, I've got things to do, so I was going to find another school. But instead, they got me an internship at a place called WM Creations, which is an effects shop owned by Matthew Mungle, who's a Academy Award winner from Bram Stoker's Dracula. And he had done a million movies, parts of, I mean, he was involved in Edward Scissorhands. He's involved in every film you can imagine that at that time, like the 90s. Matthew was a mega force. And I started as an intern on X-Files season 8. And I worked on 2 episodes for basically for free. And then he offered me a position and I stayed there for 2 years. And I worked on like the biggest Hollywood stuff of my whole career at the beginning of my career, from X-Files to Terminator 3, Charlie's Angels 2. Scorpion King was my first feature film.
That's awesome.
The Tuxedo with Jackie Chan. I mean, I did like 14 major motion pictures, Daredevil, big, huge movies, and then also a lot of television. And then in 2002, I started my own career because I never moved to LA wanting to work for the guy. I wanted to be the guy. I wanted to be Tom Savini. I wanted to be Rick Baker. I didn't want to work for them.
Right.
So I started my own company called 1313 Effects in 2002, and that's still going strong today. We're still making monsters for movies. It's had ups and downs. I know Don Shepard, who was here. I met him because I ended up on a reality show called Face Off that was very popular, and I was on season 1, and I was at a flea market in Fort Myers, Florida, and this guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, are you that guy from Face Off?" And I was like, "Yeah," and that's where Shep comes from. We became good friends, and he had just recognized me from the TV, So
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
And Face Off was weird because it's one of those things, they make it look like on those shows that we're all beginners, but I had been doing makeup effects for about 10 years at that time. And that was 13 years ago now. But interesting enough, my directorial debut, Teddy Told Me To, is based off of a character that I created on that show, Face Off.
I was going to say, that's a great segue into talking about the movie.
Yeah, 13 years ago, I got on this reality show that I said no to twice. I told them, no, I'm busy. I'm working on a movie. I can't do it. And then they called a third time. And this guy, Jerry, says, listen, everywhere I go in LA, I just was at the place called Spudik's Movie Empire. That's a VHS video store. And he said, and they just keep telling me, Tom Devlin, you got to call Tom Devlin. So I really want to ask you to be on the show. And at that point, I believe in signs, like there's paths in your life you're supposed to take. And after the third time, I was like, all right, I'll come for the audition, because like something was definitely pushing me in that direction. So I went to the audition. I walked in the door, and this is so crazy. I stepped through the door of the audition, and there's a guy there named Matthew Singer. And he created an effects material called Third Degree that I use regularly. But when I worked at WM on X-Files as an intern, part of my job was driving back and forth to Matt Singer's lab because he was developing this material. So when I walked through that door, Matt Singer's like, Tom? And I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen this guy in 10 years, And he's and I did my audition. You had to do makeup on yourself. And he took me aside and he was like, listen, there's an audition process. You got to come back 3 more times. There's a psych test, but you're on the show. I'm telling you right now, please come back.
What was his position on the show? Sorry, good job.
He was he was the official that was assisting the casting directors, because casting directors don't know what real makeup effects artists do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they were in charge of the personality part. He was in charge of getting people that were talented that weren't going to kill their clients.
Right.
Using wrong materials or whatever. So he took me aside and basically said, I know that this has been a struggle for you to get to say yes, but you are going to be on the show if you say yes. And so it was cool,
That's fantastic.
And
that's really cool. All right, real quick, thank you, Ant, for the super chat. Really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
Yeah. Hey, that's cool. And then the next thing you know, that show has popped back up in my life. I just thought it was a game show, And yeah. I mismanaged. I've said this a lot. I know Justin's heard this. I've mismanaged an opportunity. When I came off that show, I thought that I lost the game show. I didn't understand it was like part of modern pop culture. I thought that you don't get the autograph from somebody who lost The Price is Right. You know what I mean? So I'm very competitive. I'm very goal oriented, and I really thought I was going to win that show. So when I came off of it, I didn't really embrace. I did get some cool sponsorships. Got a cool I have this. This is an airbrush that I it's like my own custom model. This is a
awesome.
Custom Tom Devlin airbrush. And that's only because I was on that show. And for 8 years, I sold and was represented by Pache airbrushes. It was kind of like having my own set of Jordans or something,
Right.
But
you might have not won it, but you feel like you wanted the social. You definitely the most memorable cast member on the show.
I think that I could have even done that better, though. I feel like a lot of the rebellious people latched on to me because they would say, you didn't lose, you were robbed. And that's cool. But I think after the fact, if I could have had these talks in front of people at conventions or classes, I never talked about Face Off for years until, you know, I'd meet Don Shepard. I met at the flea market, and he brought it up, and I agreed. Yeah, I was on it, but we didn't like get into it. And then it wasn't until I opened the Monster Museum here in Vegas, or in Boulder City anyway. Every single day somebody asked me about Face Off, and I realized it affected a whole generation, you know.
Face Off became so popular, and that's, you know, not to your own fault. There's like, you're on season 1, so
Yeah.
it was like you didn't get to see 6 seasons and go like, holy shit, people care about these people.
And I was resentful against. I didn't watch it after my season because
Right.
I lost. So like,
Right.
I didn't understand the star power that kind of came. I would go to this show called Transworld where I sold Halloween masks, and I'd be selling my wares, and there'd be contestants from Face Off that lost the show signing autographs, and I would be pissed. Like, fuck you guys, sell your artwork. Why are you, you know? But I was wrong. I
Right.
mismanaged an opportunity. They certainly rode the wave better than I did, you know. So,
So what
and I
made you?
understand that now. So we need Face Off to go on Netflix, which it has, but only season 4 and 5. I need season 1 to go on Netflix,
Yeah.
so I can cultivate this thing that I kind of missed the bus on. You know, even though I was there on the front lines, I somehow missed out on the benefits from it, you know, some of them. But like the cool airbrush thing, that's very cool. I've met some of my best friends because of the show, and I've had a really great career teaching and sharing my knowledge because of they like to use people from the show, you know.
Well, and
So
I think that something that you might not really, and maybe you kind of said this, but something you might not really understand is like, you know, when people talk about something. I remember when I first heard about you in Las Vegas, like, you know, a mutual friend was like, "Oh yeah, Tom Devlin's got this monster museum he's opened up in Boulder City," and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome," you know. And he's like, "Yeah, he's a makeup effects artist, and that's cool," you know. But like, that's not to like the average person, like, you know, you unless you're diehard in that stuff, it's easy not to kind of know the work that you've gotten to do. But I do remember early on, he was like, "Oh, he was on Face Off," and at that time, I was watching Face Off like crazy, and so I was like, "Oh shit! Like this is like he's he's really awesome." Like this was like so like in my mind, you were elevated fast because I heard you were on Face Off, which is like, you know, it does, you know, like have a weight to it that's probably hard for you to understand because, you know, you're in the industry, but like to the average kind of fan of like horror movies and makeup effects, you know, when I heard you're on Face Off, I was like, "Oh, that's really awesome." Like, you know, it, you know, and then I learned more about you and then got to know you, but it was like it immediately got my attention, is what I was gonna say. So I think it's you still get that
the
wave.
crazy thing about before Face Off, most makeup effects artists are just a name in the credits. You know what I mean? A lot of people know Tom Savini because he went
Yeah.
on Letterman and he made a big. He was a character. The funny thing about Tom Savini is he only did like 14 movies. I've done 165 feature films. Tom Savini did 14, and they weren't like great move. Like he was an innovator of effects, but he was a character within the pages of Fangoria. That's what Tom Savini was.
Right.
And then people know who Rick Baker is because he won an Academy Award every year, and Bill Corso. But for the most part, effects artists were names in the credits. I remember when I met V. Neal before Face Off.
Yeah.
When I met V. Neal, I thought she was a dude. I didn't know the name V. Neal was a woman. I thought the name V. Neal was like Ving Rhames. Like I thought it was like a dude.
You're expecting to meet a man, like the name, yeah. And she's like this awesome woman, yeah.
But after Face Off, you know, the interesting thing is after Face Off, we also are met with Instagram and social media that kind of came at the same time. Yeah. So now all of a sudden effects artists are rock stars. And it's a whole different kind of thing. I don't know. I grew up, I love John Vulich and Gabe Bartalos and Tony Gardner. And these aren't guys I would recognize on the street as a kid. they're guys that I recognize their names from the end of the movie. You know.
Well, and what I was gonna say too is like when we were young and growing up, when you talk about Fangoria, that was what we, because the world was so different and how we got to know who
Yeah.
people were, like Fangoria gave us those, and you would see, all the stuff by Savini and Baker maybe, and I don't know,
Yeah.
Stan Winston and different people that would have different things in there. It was awesome. But you could also, if you'd read deeply and cared about it, you would pick up the names that you're talking about. You might not get to see their picture or know who they were.
Right.
But I think
But
that that's
also
something that horror fans always have like wanted, like we've always celebrated. I think we've always loved the artists that make, because the gore is such a big part of the movie. The kills, it's the fun. So you guys as
Yeah.
makeup effects artists are rock stars to us.
And
fans in that way.
the other great gateway, Fangoria was a good one, but then at the end of the full moon movies, they would do a thing called Video Zone. And the Video Zone was like the first ever behind the scene featurettes. And you would get to see, John Beekler and Gabe Bartalos and Dave Allen doing their magic. And like, I would sit there and be like, oh, that's a silicone mold. Now I can understand how they're doing. Like I learned from watching these little clips on the behind the scenes, know, and that was that I was addicted to Full Moon as a kid, which then later also in my career became a staple, a good more than a decade of my life. I was the Full Moon guy. And that was cool because like, I remember they did a Video Zone based on Tom Devlin, and that was awesome because I lived for the Video Zone as a kid.
Right. That's awesome. It's really cool. Real quick, I want to say that there's Tim Francis in the chat who was saying they were looking forward to seeing your horror movie. I'm not sure if you know Tim. Back to Ant earlier, he said, do a creepy popcorn tour of the museum. We 100% have to come in and do a tour there of the museum. We've been down there, many times, Justin and I, but we love it and we'd love to like feature it on the channel some way. So 100% want to do that.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of YouTubers out there that have done tours.
Mention just to the people that don't know about the museum, kind of what it is, and just a little general summary of it.
So Tom Devins Monster Museum, that's my logo there. We are right outside Las Vegas in Boulder City, Nevada. And our mission is to preserve the art and history of practical effects in film. So that's rubber monsters. Not everything in the museum is screen used. A lot of it is reproductions that I created from the silent film era all the way up through modern movies. And then there's a lot of screen use props in there from the films that I've done, like the Puppet Master movies and Poultrygeist, and some of my more recent films that I've directed, like Nameless and Teddy Told Me To, live within the museum. So it's about 2,000 square feet, and it changes all the time. And we just really, we're a lot of people know that Boris Karloff played Frankenstein's monster. Even like your grandma might know that. But not everybody knows who Jack Pierce is. And Jack Pierce created Frankenstein's monster. He designed Dracula's makeup. He did The Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Wolfman. He is the artist that created what we all know as classic monsters. So that's what the museum is there to kind of educate people on the creators of all the cool stuff.
Right.
Steve Hansen said, greatest place on earth here on the chat. He also said, thanks. He commented on our t-shirts too. So it is an awesome place down there. And it's
a ton of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Justin, finish what you're saying.
Steve Hansen is Las Vegas Frankenstein.
Yeah, and we're gonna show that trailer. Sure.
Oh yeah, and his himself.
His picture is of him and his Las Vegas Frankenstein makeup. We're gonna talk about that here soon too. And we're gonna show the trailer to Las Vegas Frankenstein, which is your second movie, right? And the movie that we, did for us at V Channels Media. Before we go into that though, let's chat a little bit more about Teddy Told Me To, because I'm curious. Like, I watched Face Off and I saw, when you did the makeup and everything else. In your mind at the time, I mean, I'm sure that you kind of hoped that maybe you'd make a movie of it one day. What were your thoughts about that? Like, was it ever really something you entertained, or?
Well, the thing is, so the challenge, it was on episode 4, and it was that we got driven out to the Psycho house on the Universal backlot, which was so cool. Like, to step off the tram. You know, we got to be on the steps and be at the Psycho house. And then Sean Cunningham comes up, the creator of Friday the 13th. And anybody who knows me, knows that I'm a Jason guy. I love Jason Voorhees. I'm obsessed with Friday the 13th. I always have been. It's my childhood favorite, right? So he gives us this challenge to create a slasher, like a horror icon, based on something that would carry a franchise. And I personally was going to go in a different direction. I was going to make like a doll face killer. That movie, The Hills Run Red, had come out recently, and I really friggin' loved the character makeup in The Hills Run Red. And so I was inspired by that and almost about to rip it off. But there was another girl on the show. Her name was Heather. No, her name was Sam. And Sam said, I'm going to do a doll face killer. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do a doll face if you're going to do a doll face. And I'm so glad, absolutely so stoked that me and Sam had this conversation out loud. Because had we both done a doll face, we probably would have both been just safe. It would have been good, but whatever. But because of that, I just thought about what Sean Cunningham had said, and he had mentioned it should be, to leave something that torments adults is usually something they're terrified of as a kid. And so I came up with, when I was a child, I had this crazy nightmare. I'll never forget. I had watched Child's Play 2 for the first time at a kid named Brian Whipple's house. And I was not allowed to watch horror movies when I was a kid. So I was so afraid to fall asleep because I didn't want my parents to find out if I had a nightmare that I had seen this horror film. And I loved it. I loved Child's Play and Child's Play 2. And so I fell asleep and I had a nightmare that Teddy Ruxpin and Chucky joined forces and were tormenting me. And my mom woke my mom up. I'm having a nightmare. I was like 11. So
that's amazing.
When I woke up to solve the problem, now this is so stupid, but I pulled an eyeball out of my Teddy Ruxpin and I took his lower jaw off so he couldn't blink and he couldn't talk. And I thought if he didn't work, it would save me, The funny thing is I still have that Teddy Ruxpin. It's in the movie, actually. And it's hideous. It's so terrifying with the missing eye and jaw. I don't know why I would have done that. I should have just left
made it worse.
But yeah. But anyway, jump forward to I made the character. It did really well. I had never intended on making a movie of it because I wasn't directing films back then. I had produced a couple movies and my wife is a director, but it wasn't till like right when we came off the movie, the show, a lot of people were like, you got to make that movie. You got to make the movie. I want to see the movie. So me and my buddy Vince wrote up a script and it was very different. It was more like Halloween 2. It was very different than what the current Teddy Told Me To is. Almost too hard to do, big sets and, like a whole city involved. And that just kind of sat for years and years. We tried to make a comic book of it. It never worked. And then I don't know what, I went back east to Maine to make this slasher film called Time's Up with Felissa Rose and Elsie Holtz and Damien Maffei. And we had a really great time making this crazy slash. It was like a 90s slasher movie in the snow. And I got real jealous because I was like, man, I want to make my own slasher movie. Here's the thing. I'm not complaining about their film or anybody else's. But as an effects artist, the effects get cut out of every movie. Like, we plan to make this really cool thing that's going to happen, and they never shoot it. Or and that's just budget and time. But I always get so offended that, like, they'll take, like, 17,000 takes of somebody touching each other's hand. Oh, they didn't get the eye line right. Oh, they didn't get this right. Nobody gives a fuck about them fucking grabbing each other's hand. They want to see that hand get cut off and bone marrow squirt in the other person's eye or whatever it is. So I left that set just boiling about wanting to make my own slasher film and showcase the effects the way they were done in the 80s, like the Tom Savini Friday the 13th stuff is slow. Right. That arrow comes through the chest. It's slow. Yeah. And that's what we've lost over years. All this, and then you
Yeah.
don't see anything. You hear it, and you're like, "Oh, Art the Clown is terrifying," and you're like, "Nah, not really. It's just Caro syrup, man. I don't know." But so anyway, I called my wife and I said, "Hey, I want you to direct this movie. Me and Vince are going to write it. This Teddy Told Me To movie." And she said no. And I was like, "What do you mean no? Like, kids are old enough now. We can do this. I'm going to put the kids in it. It'll be great." She was like, "Nope, I don't want to do it." She said, "I would prefer if you did it. It's your story, and you want to tell it. I don't want to work for you." And I was like, I let that culminate while I was driving home from Maine. And by the time I got home, I think we were already cast and had the script done. We were ready. Like
That's
I
amazing.
drove for 3 days and we're making a movie.
So
And
that
then
is
we just
really what
figured.
made you want to be like you at that point. You weren't like, you know what, I really want to hop into directing. It was kind of you're a
I
little
didn't
pushed
ever
into it.
want. I didn't ever want to be a director. I wanted my wife to direct and let me produce and do the effects because I like the team. I
Yeah.
like the family unit. But it had to be on the second day of directing that I was like, oh, I like this. I
Right.
like everything in here is coming out. And I was working with a camera guy named Gary Arona who was just getting everything I asked him to do. He wasn't fighting me. If I said, "Stay on this shot, we're going to hit this face with the hammer." Actually, Topher shot that shot. But it didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
With both the guys helping on camera, when I said, "Please do this," and we're going to do this, they did it. And then I had it. And I was like, whoa. It's very different as an effects artist standing behind the camera guy. Like I would talk to Howard and to Charlie, and I'd be like, "Okay, so we need to get this and this and this to make this effect sequence work." And they'd say, "Yep." And then they'd shoot what they want. And then, okay, we didn't get we didn't
Right.
get
Right.
3 parts of that. So it's like, but we got those girls holding hands, and that's important.
So on
You know.
Teddy though, let me
So
ask you, did you do the as I think we had a little conversation about this before. You're directing, how much of the makeup effects are you involved in? Like, did you do most of
I
it?
was pretty involved. There's
Okay.
actually a lot. There's a there. I was pretty involved. There was
Okay.
a. I had 2 guys, Waleed and Chris, who had like blood and stuff, buckets of blood and stuff. But like when we have Michael Shields, who was in the chat earlier, he
Yep.
hits the hammer, and the head explodes. Chris's head hits it with the hammer, and it hits the dinger. Well, I operated all of it. I made sure the head blew up where I wanted it. I threw the head into the bell. Like I as an effects artist, I'm so confident in what I want. Another big thing is like when you're blowing a head off or something, a camera guy frames it right here. Well, all the action is happening up here.
Right.
So even though it looks weird, you have to frame it high. So I'd get my camera set up and then I'd go pull the effect off and we would see what we have to. And then there's some stuff where, like, spoiler, I don't know. I don't want to give too many. Should I? Can I? Should I? I don't know.
It's your
This
movie,
is a
man.
premiere. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
ruin it. But there are some effects at the end of the movie, uh, where our Kayla, my assistant, is dressed as our lead actress, and I am dressed like Teddy, and we reshot a whole sequence where I was directing, doing the effects, and wearing the clothes at the same time. So that and my producer is dressed as our actress Kamara because she wasn't there, and we have her in a wig and glasses, and we're smashing her in the face with a baseball bat, and you just never really notice.
Movie magic, man. That's the cool.
Movie magic.
So, also let me ask you this question then. Since you got a chance to direct, did you think, and now I know what have you made now? 5 movies? Is it 5 you've directed now?
I've got 7. Some of them are in post, but there's 7 films that have been shot.
In like a year.
Those are we have Teddy Told Me To, Las Vegas Frankenstein, Nameless. His name is Gacy. After Dark. Laughter Face, which nobody knows about. This is the first time I ever said that out loud.
Nice.
And there's one more. Oh, and Slaughterhouse on the
Slaughterhouse on the
Hill,
Hill.
completed and delivered. Yeah, so 7. That's crazy. In
So
2 years, 7 feature films.
yeah, that's insanity. It's absolute insanity. So a question I have though is, as you've gone along this process and doing it, have you now as a director had the experience of like where you're cutting an effect or you're not giving the time to an effect that like previously you're like, oh, I really want to zero in on this, but you're like, oh, the day, whatever it is that has to happen. Have you
No.
kind of no?
No.
Okay.
And even like even on Nameless, I missed an effect, not because I cut it, we just never got it. But we were editing the last day of editing, and I said, we cannot lock it. We need to go shoot Chris's head hitting the sand. Have to shoot Chris's head hitting the sand. So I threw the severed head and it hits the sand. And last thing we shot, it's the last shot in the movie. It was made almost a year and a half after we rolled camera on the first shot. So I would never, because I have my own effects shop, which also serves as most of the sets for where we shoot. I would never not take the extra 20 minutes it takes to I have Slaughterhouse on the Hill. That film's been delivered, but for the director's cut on the Blu-ray that I'm going to put out, I have a shot where Jason Wallace gets cut in half with a chainsaw. We didn't cut a torso in half with a real chainsaw. We just pantomimed it, blood sprays, he's screaming. That's fine for the normal cut. But for my unrated director's cut, I am going to cut that torso in half. I haven't done it yet, but I will, and we'll cut it in the movie because it deserves to be there. Like, the guy's out there acting for free. He wanted to get cut in half. We're going to cut him in half.
Right. That's awesome. We got a question from Don Shepard. He said, how did the clown movie come out?
That would be Laughter Face. Don was scheduled. Don was supposed to be our Captain Clown in Laughter Face, and because scheduling issues, he was not able to make it out. And Steve Hansen stepped in, and it was brilliant, man. That movie, that's something special. I know Justin was there for most of making Laughter Face, and every day when we wrapped, all of us were just like, "Is this art? Like, are we actually making underground art right now?" I think maybe we made something that will be considered art.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Awesome, man.
Pretty good.
It was weird. I got to drive a semi truck, which, oh man, that's like the dream. I ran over a guy. It was cool.
That's awesome.
What kind of makes you like how obviously like some of the kills you make? Who do you make everything for? Do you make is it more for the audience? Is it for yourself? Is it for your actors, your friends? Kind of at this point in your career, like what's kind of, why do you make some of these things?
It depends on what element it is, because the movie itself I make for me. Like, I like a horror film with, if it's a slasher film, I like over the top kills. I like the 3 B's: the blood, boobs, and beast. You have to have a cool killer, over the top kills, and some adult content. That's what I liked when I was a kid, and I think that's what I like now. I know kids don't necessarily gravitate to the same thing as video store kids did, but it's a different time now. But I make those parts for me. But when it comes out like to the actual kill, I'm kind of doing that more for the audience than for me, because I don't really care for doing blood effects anymore. Like, that's not something that I get off on. I get off on you guys screening this movie at your festival and people just screaming in the audience about, like, a hammer hitting into a guy's face repeatedly for like 3 minutes. Right. And then I get a little trophy award for it. And that shows me that people really enjoyed that part of it. But I'm more about the killer, or the creature, like the monsters. Like Las Vegas Frankenstein, my second film, I made that movie for me. Like, that movie, I don't know if it lands with general audience, but I love it. It's like a 1940s classic horror film,
Yeah.
I love Las Vegas Frankenstein, and since we're chatting about it right now and we're kind of moving along in time, I'm gonna pull up the trailer real fast to show the audience, and we'll watch along with you. But like, I'm a big fan of Las Vegas Frankenstein. I think it's a ton of fun. Let's
And I love that because I don't know, you know, it hasn't really gotten the exposure yet. You know, we don't know who loves it.
It's getting ready to come out.
It's definitely a fun flick.
The show is stale. We're not going to keep these people coming back if we keep giving them the same thing night after night, and I'm tired of doing the same thing. So what do? We? I need you to do something.
In this box is a collar that brings life to what was once dead.
Victor Van Pelt creates life on stage.
All right, I'll do it, Mr. Victor. I'll do whatever you need.
Look into my eyes. What I'm doing here is going to change the world.
MGM, Caesars, they're going to be all over us when they see what I haven't spoken.
Everything comes at a cost. What is free today, you will be billed for tomorrow.
Think your new show's got what it takes to put your old ass back on top?
I'm working on something that's going to change history.
Reanimating collars and Frankensteins. I mean, isn't this a bit out there even for you?
You want to be a star, don't you, Captain?
Are you a big star too?
Wait, Fee.
You still act like you're 20 years old and nothing you ever knew has any consequences.
I'm bigger than God.
Help me alive! Oh, you thought I was crazy! You thought I was crazy!
No.
Nice.
I love that movie, man. I really do. I think what you did so well in that, you know, and I can't wait for people to see it too and see, you know, how they feel about it. But like, there's so many fun characters in that movie. You had such great like actors. You put them all together so well, and like, I mean, even you see the characters in that trailer, and it's like everyone just played their characters really well. You built this fun world that's campy and awesome and cohesive, and it's like, it's just a fun movie, man. I love that.
The characters and the putting the actors together, that's probably one of my favorite parts. And that, I kind of think ever since Teddy, I learned how much I like that. So every movie we go into, we're like, we want these colorful characters that are memorable. And too often do you watch a movie where too many people look the same and you can't quite
100%. Yeah.
recall who did what or why, you know. So I like
Las Vegas Frankenstein. Every character is like, and even like, and I don't want to say this is, I don't even know how to say this the right way, but like the leads, you know, Vince and you know, which is Victor
Victoria.
and Victoria.
Yeah.
It's like they're perfect in their leads. You know, they're not. I mean, there are, you know, Vince is a goofy character and he's good at it. But like a lot of times when good movies and there's characters all around them, like they kind of get lost in it. And I felt like they played the roles perfectly. They're fun characters, you know, and then like just all around them, what's the little guy's name? That's kind of like their Igor to
John
some degree.
Carius.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
And,
John
like,
Carius.
yeah,
Great.
it's just everybody's fun in that movie, and it's a fun movie.
He steals the movie.
We will be premiering that one
yeah,
on the channel soon too, so we'll have you back for that.
Very cool.
Yeah, we got 18 more minutes left. One of the things I want to say before I forget, in the chat there for anybody who's watching, I'll put it into the movie. You know, I'm wearing one of your shirts, the Tay Told Me To shirt. I have I want to help you pump your merchandise here. I got the Blu-ray, the limited edition Blu-ray, but it is at Terror Threads, and so if you guys like the movie and you're interested, you should definitely click on that link and grab a T-shirt or grab the movie. It's really cool stuff, man. Yeah, it's fun.
The guys at Terror Threads, they're based out of Chicago, and I was at a Flashback weekend convention, And I've been trying to get them to make us a T-shirt because Terror Threads is awesome. They do all the Puppet Master shirts. They do all the Sleepaway Camp shirts. And I cornered Rick, their the owner, and I said, "Man, I want you to make a T-shirt of my movie. I have a copy of it. I'd like to give it to you." And he said, "Better, let's watch it up in the hotel room tonight." And I was like, "Awesome." I thought it was gonna be me and him, but it was me and Terror Threads, the whole Terror Threads company,
Oh,
in
that's
one
awesome.
room to get their opinions. And it was everybody, like from a 13-year-old kid to a 33-year-old man. And I was like, okay, here we go. We're gonna see how this goes, you know. And they all love Teddy, man. They love Teddy told me to.
That's
They
fantastic.
and said we'll make the T-shirt. It'll be a limited run. And then I suggested we do the special edition Blu-ray, and I just love the artwork so much, and the fact that we'll have that forever. That artwork, now that image is out there and it's associated with the movie, and it's
Super fun.
the shirts are still available. I know that we're getting low on them, but when they run out, I think that's it. That's our run with Terror Threads with this movie. And but I think it's great. It's become kind of a tradition that every year at Flashback we watch Las Vegas Frankenstein last year, and there's always a new movie to watch now. You know.
That's
great.
fun, man.
One of the things that we hadn't talked about tonight is, which I think some of the coolest things what Teddy told me to is the tour. Could you expand on that whole experience of the festival run with Teddy?
Oh yeah, the Teddy tour. I have a. We did a tour. Teddy Takes America, and these were all of our theater locations.
So awesome.
And we did it like a touring rock band. Basically, me and my producer Kayla got in the van. I booked all the theaters, in advance, and we premiered at your guys' show at Sin City Horror Fest, and then we hauled ass to Massachusetts.
Literally got in the van that night.
Got in the van, drove straight to Massachusetts, didn't stop because we didn't have time. Got to Salem, Massachusetts, and showed it at Cinema Salem, and then we went up to Maine, and then a couple locations in Pennsylvania, East Stroudsburg, Philadelphia, East Stroudsburg and Pittsburgh, and then to Indianapolis to Chicago to Texas, straight to Texas? No, Kansas City, and then Kansas City to Texas to Arizona. It was amazing. And every
Awesome.
theater, all these people came out and they loved our movie, and we talked about it, and it was just awesome. And then wherever any stars from the film could meet us on a location, I know Matt Osborne took a couple stops with us. He jumped in the van and rode with us from Texas to Arizona to Hollywood. It was amazing, man. Like one of the coolest times of my life.
It sounds like so much fun, man.
Well, then one of the theaters was your hometown, and kind of life kind of came full circle, kind of. I mean,
East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania was a crazy trip because that's where I grew up, and I hadn't been there in like 23 years or something. You know, it's been a minute. And the theater was at this place called the Pocono Cinema, where I used to go watch like independent art house films like Blair Witch and Big Lebowski and Dusk Till Dawn. I saw all these movies at the Pocono Cinema, and it's just a one theater, you know. So like we're showing our movie in this theater that I grew up watching movies in, and it's right across the street from Frazetta's Fantasy Corner, which for those of you who don't know who Frank Frazetta is, he's like a very famous fantasy artist, created Conan the Barbarian and did a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs artwork for like the Princess of Mars series. He also Heavy Metal Magazine, all of Danzig's artwork. Like Frazetta's, all the murals you see on the side of a van, that's Frank Frazetta. Well, his son Bill owns this little Halloween shop that I used to go to as a kid, and that's how I learned what makeup effects was. Like I didn't know what makeup effects was until I went in that shop, and I got these Grand Illusion books by Tom Savini, and I learned things, and they taught me all about it. And then here I am showing my horror film, 20 years later. I mean, it was
so cool, man.
And that whole theater, I mean, it was like the end of Big Fish. like all of these characters from my life were in that theater. My first girlfriend when I was in 6th grade, my high school girlfriend's mom and siblings, and my like my best friends from back then, and it was just amazing. And like I have some pretty tall tales from back home, and it was cool because we went to this like bonfire the night before, and all these guys came out of the woodwork, and those tall tales weren't as tall as I thought. Like it was really cool to legitimize some of the crazy times that I had in life. And you know, I had to apologize at the beginning of the screening. I told the whole room, I said, when I left this town, this is the movie you would think that I was going to make, because I feel like Teddy Told Me To is a locked in movie from when I was 14. Like that is the Sleepaway Camp Part 2 influence. Like that's what I want. When I was 14, 15, this is the movie I preached to everybody in that room. I would try to get them to watch this kind of schlock, you know? And I am grown up, and I have matured, and I do have kids, and I am like, I run 3 businesses very successfully, and we're doing things. But when I come back to the hometown with this movie in hand, all they see is the Tommy Devlin that left in 99, dropped out of high school, moved to Hollywood. You know, they don't understand there was growth, but it's just what's on the screen is a nostalgia piece. It's not what I am not still Teddy Told Me To. I just appreciate Teddy Told Me To, you know? And
Awesome.
So it was a weird moment in this room full of people that are like, of course you did it. You know, it's it was weird. But then to finish the tour, another huge stop was the Los Angeles stop, because I left East Stroudsburg and went straight to LA. I was working on X-Files while my class was graduating. You know what I mean?
Right.
So while I was in Los Angeles, I had that big budget career with not that I made a lot of money, but I worked on bigger movies. And then I had the zero budget and the 1313 Effects early days, the Full Moon days, the Asylum days. I have these like generations of me living in LA. Well, all of those people were in that Los Angeles sold out theater. There was guys from the WM days. There was guys from Full Moon. My whole film career was in that room. And it was so touching because it was like, kind of like the East Stroudsburg, like my high school class, but the 15 years I spent in LA, the different groups of people I was around, somebody from every group showed up. So those memories were like, whoa, that's Travis Betts. I did my first movie for him called Joshua in 2002. That's what started 1313 Effects. And that movie was incredible. And he's here. And there's Brendan Early. And Brendan Early and I did a movie for Andrew Getty called The Evil Within, which originally called The Storyteller with Michael Berryman. And that was an insane chapter of my life. And there's the guys from WM. Scott Fields is here. Like, it was so touching that they all showed up to watch my little movie that I made in my backyard. You know, literally, like, there's a lot of Teddy Told Me To shot in my backyard of my house, you know.
Right.
That's awesome.
So I don't know. I really do enjoy when we get to the movie, the whole campfire scene that's in my backyard. And then also the tents from the flashback, the tent with Tabitha Stevens doing her Wildly Ways. That's all in my backyard. So we did shoot a bunch of stuff in my backyard. It was pretty cool.
Very cool. Well, we've only got 8 more minutes left before the movie's gonna start. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to chat about?
What do you got planned for the year?
Yeah.
What's next what's next on the list? What can you say?
So me and my buddy Waleed, he is a effects artist that works with me, but he's just a creative dude, and he just turned 40, and he just really wanted us to help him make his own movie. So he wrote this cool alien script, and we're going to do that together. I'm going to try to shoot it, and he's going to direct it. And it's like a really cool alien horror film. He also wants to edit it and take it on. He basically wants to headline his own show, you know.
That's awesome.
So we're gonna do the best we can to get that done. And then coming up in the summer, we're gonna we had plans last year to do a movie called Bloody Bluff that is a Sasquatch film, and those plans fell apart because, oddly enough, a hurricane hit southern Nevada and
Right.
destroyed Mount Charleston. They've opened Mount Charleston again, and we're going to try to get up there and make our Bigfoot movie Bloody Bluff in June or July. And then I'm really working on trying to find some financing for a film I am so stoked about called Fortunes of Fear. And I'm not going to get into it too much, but it's something very special to me. Really good writer, author Mike wrote the script, and I absolutely love it. And we're trying to get some cool names attached. And so if anybody out there would like to angel invest in a low budget production, we're looking for like 20 to 30,000, and we think we can pull it off within that. Also, for those of you who don't know, I made a movie called The After Dark. I am so proud of The After Dark. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done, and it premieres here in Las Vegas on April 29th at the end of this month at the Palms Casino. We just put tickets on sale today, so there's a VIP package that comes with a Blu-ray and a mini poster, and I will sign both of those, and there will be cast and crew members all over the place if you want to get those signed. There's also an after party the VIP package includes. We have the penthouse reserved at the Palms, which is pretty sweet. So $50 you can get the VIP package, be on the red carpet with all the stars and everything. And then I think general admission's $10. And so that's the 29th at the Brendan Theater in the Palms, and there's a link on my Facebook and Instagram and all that.
I just dropped the link in the chat too and pinned it. So if anyone can be in Vegas and wants to be there, you can show up.
It's like a warring vampire movie, kind of like if you took The Lost Boys versus Interview with a Vampire. So it's like fancy vampires versus punk vampires. We had so much fucking fun making that movie, and I'm so proud of it. It's got some of my favorite celebrity cameos in there. We have not even cameos. I mean, Gangrel from WWE is our lead villain, and Lars Fredrickson from the band Rancid. He's in the film as well. Paul London, tag team royalty from WWE. Paul London's got a little cameo part in there that's amazing, and he's one of my favorite wrestlers. We've got Leroy Patterson from the Full Moon universe. Just really a lot of awesome.
I'm sharing the screen real fast to see if just to give people a little taste of it. There's the poster.
Yeah.
We're still learning what we're doing here.
Some of those stills.
Like here's some really cool looking stills. That's pretty amazing vampire makeup there. It looks like a ton of fun, man.
We had so much fun on this movie, and this is something that it was such a passion project. I had kind of developed the story in like 10th grade with my best friends, and it's just so weird to watch it now because 1998 was kind of when it was cultivated, I guess. So maybe I was in 11th grade, and now to watch it, I feel like I'm in 1998 again. Like it makes me love that, So kind of like Teddy. Teddy does the same thing for me, but for 96,
So what I love about you is I love that you get to make movies for your younger self.
Yeah.
You don't forget your young, because that's the best versions of us. That's the happiest of us usually.
That's when we wanted to
man.
do this. That's when we wanted to do this for fun, not for money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I still, I have never, I don't know if I should share all this, but I don't pay myself to make movies because when I'm directing, that's different than being an effects artist. Effects artist is my career, but when I'm directing, I put the budget on the screen because I make movies because it's fun. I don't want the stress of it turning into a job,
Right. And that's another thing. And we have 3 minutes left. One of the things I wanted to share about you, me knowing you, and what I love about you so much is that, making films is tough, and a lot of people want to do it and get held up by wanting more money and, all these rules that you think that there have to be in order to make movies. But like filmmaking is an art. And like any other art, you can exercise it and do it any way you want if you don't worry about like, oh, it's got to be $1 million or it doesn't. And I love that you approach filmmaking as an artist of like, I have, 8 days and I have $10 or 10,000 or 10 million. Like you're gonna make it no matter what. And I think that's awesome, man. Like
I
keep
think
doing
that's
that and keep it up.
and that's how Teddy Told Me To was made. When we ran out of money, we stopped, and then we picked it up when we had a little bit more. And really, we've learned a lot. Every film we learn where we can cut some costs and stuff. Yeah. I'm not cheap in the way that I don't know. I just try to I don't always understand where that budget goes. Like you don't need,
it goes fast once you start. Yeah.
You don't need $1 million, but like 20 grand is kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of money. So what can we do for less and then make up for some of the losses, Yeah. One of the best moves I ever made after Teddy is I bought a camera, because now we don't have to pay. We own it. We don't have to pay.
You have to rent it.
We don't have to depend on somebody that owns one that's not available when we need them. We own it. So, and enough of us are capable to operate it. But
we have the movie's about to start. We got 1 minute, so I hate to cut you off, but also I would love for you to come back, and I don't know, come back once a week. We could talk forever about movies and all your projects, and we love you here, man. We love supporting you, and everybody stick around and watch the movie. We're gonna be hanging out in the chat
and
go to the Monster Museum. Yeah.
Order stuff on the website too.
Yeah, support the filmmaker, man. Support Tom and his team. And then we'll be in the live chat. And thank you. Yes, thank you so much. But Tom will be in the chat while you're watching the movie. So if you have some questions, I want to try and be in the live chat too, or I will be in there. But I also want to kind of try and keep track of the kills as we're watching it. Because I want to see. I know you know the number in your head, but I want to see if we count them up correctly and if we miss any. So keep us honest there. And that's it, man. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we will see you again very soon.